if you had any doubt about whether or not Mike Gundy was actually going to be ousted at Oklahoma State, if he'll be the coach there next year, let me just remove all doubt for you. We've got some reporting from Pete Thamel that has come up, and it's on the heels of a 19-12 loss at home to Tulsa on Friday night. Once again, a hilariously fitting score for just how ugly that game was for Oklahoma State for so many reasons. In-state team that had not beaten Oklahoma State since the 50s. That is the smallest school in FBS, Tulsa, which does have a very nice campus. I have been to the University of Tulsa. I used to date a soccer player at the University of Tulsa when I was in college. So I've actually spent a little bit of time there, but not exactly a place that I would walk around and be like, yeah, seems like a football powerhouse. Braylon Presley, Dominic Richardson, those are the guys doing it to Oklahoma State, former Cowboys. So Oklahoma State's having to deal with the loss to the in-state rival. You got the coach running his mouth, which he should after winning that game. On the mic on the field, you got to deal with these former guys that we kind of told weren't good enough as we're trying to revamp our roster, that they come and just push us around in our building. They just got bullied. It was coming off of a bye week. You guys want me to keep going? Wet blanket up. I'm sorry, they beat you in 98. It was that didn't win in Stillwater since the 50s, right? Didn't win in Stillwater since the 50s. Tulsa won in 98 in general. Got my stats mixed up there. But outgained by 150 yards in the first half. First time in 20 years that Tulsa had a double-digit halftime lead against the Power 4 opponent. And until a fourth quarter touchdown, Oklahoma State had scored no touchdowns against FBS teams since November 23rd of last year. Okay, things are not good in Stillwater. Things are not good in Stillwater. And Mike Gundy, after the game, I was curious. I remember saying on that live stream on Friday, very curious how this press conference will go. I do feel like when I play these Twitter clips, sometimes they're a little quiet, so bear with me here. But let me play you this. Mike Gundy responding to some direct questions. Basically, the question here is like, what would you tell fans who are wondering why you should be the head coach still at this point? And here is what Mike.
I gave you a message earlier about the fans. They were awesome tonight. They really were. The stadium was full and they were fired up and they were awesome. But those aren't decisions that I make. And my decision is to do exactly what I mentioned earlier and get these guys and keep moving forward and go on down the road. And that's what we do.
Honestly, about the only answer you can give if you're Mike Gundy. Like, I gave you an answer earlier about the fans. The fans were great. Credits the fans and then says all I can do is just move forward. We got to just move this team forward, right? So it didn't really get contentious. It didn't really get crazy. That's just the only move. That's the only move that Mike Gundy has at this point. And I know there's been some thought out there from people like, I don't know, what can you do? He's a legend at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, I think, showed already last season where this was going, that they were not afraid to make him adjust the contract, adjust the buyout, just to keep his job, to avoid him from going away. So I am not shocked at all to see this reporting from Pete Thamel. Also, if you listen to Carson Cunningham on the downfall of Oklahoma State football video on this channel, which you should definitely check out, he more or less said the same thing. Like, they're not messing around with this. They understand how important of a time it is and that they can't let this drag on too long, even if he is a legend. Here's what Pete Thamel had to say. This story came out on Saturday. ESPN's Pete Thamel says, I've been told by sources there's an overwhelming expectation that both the coaching staff and the highest levels of the athletic department are going to be overhauled at Oklahoma State in the upcoming weeks. Quote, remember, Gundy restructured his contract. They owe $15 million to fire him, and it would be a shock to the industry if Gundy is the coach at Oklahoma State in 2026. So let's start with that. Work backwards here in reverse order. It would be a shock to the industry if Gundy is the coach at Oklahoma State in 2026. Strong words there. And, I mean, it would be a shock to me, but it's one thing for me to tell you that. It's another for Pete Thamel, very connected guy, to tell you that the industry is very much not expecting this to be a thing, that this seems like an untenable situation. There's also the mention of the restructured contract, $15 million to fire him. Once again, with those, important detail is it all due up front? Does someone have to write a $15 million check right now, or can you write $5 $3 million checks over the next 5 years? That's much more manageable if you're going to get that. But I think people around Oklahoma State have to be so motivated at this point that I don't imagine that that's going to be a problem, whatever it's going to take to get him out there. Definitely. And listen, the other part of this, pay attention. It says the highest levels of the athletic department are going to be overhauled at Oklahoma State in the upcoming weeks. Chad Weiberg, the athletic director, infamously his contract is up at the end of this year, had not been renewed. So there'd been talk about that, like what's going to happen with him. That certainly does not sound like good news for him. A lot of change happening at Oklahoma State. And I would just say, look, I don't know. Chad Weiberg is a K-State guy, so I'm not trying to beat him up just for no reason here. I don't know the situation intimately enough at Oklahoma State like how things have gone there. I know that, basketball has been floundering. I can see that basketball has been floundering. I can see now that football is floundering. So I get why, his job may be somewhat in question here. But I would just say kudos to Oklahoma State for how many times you guys hear me yell meet the moment at K-State right now for the vibes that I get there. Kudos for Oklahoma State seemingly being willing to meet the moment here. New university president, new leadership, understanding how important it is right now to get this right. Don't want to be left behind in college athletics. You can't let this drag on too long. There's no room for nonsense on this. Team went 0-9 in the Big 12 last year, and they've already lost by 66 to Oregon and lost at home to Tulsa. Can't mess around with this. And it seems like they are not messing around with this. Now, they got to follow through. They got to follow through. But Pete Thamel doesn't report this if it's not something that is likely to happen. And I don't know exactly where this comes from, but I would think this is probably just a message Oklahoma State is wanting to get out there through somebody like Pete Thamel, like a message to the fans. It's kind of like a flare to the fans. Like, hey, guys, we know. We got this. People want answers and accountability right now. We're going to give it to you. Okay, we've got this. That's my thought on it too, especially when it's coming from a guy like Thamel. I'm thinking that seems like it's probably something that comes from the university wanting to intentionally get a message out there about this. I don't know that for sure. That's my speculation, but that's definitely my thought. So with that, good show tonight, guys. Appreciate you. We talking Dabo? Oh man, no, someone threw that out about, K-State. I see you guys talking about Dabo, where they hired Dabo. Someone threw that out about K-State and hiring Dabo if he's going to be out at Clemson. I don't know. Dabo seems very similar to Gundy right now. Like two guys that were very stubborn about like wanting to do things their own way. And it seems like it's maybe biting them in the butt right now, not being quite on the cutting edge of the way the sport is going. Dabo's got a lot of season left, but boy, yeah, Clemson doesn't look very good right now either. I'm not sure he'd be a guy that I would, if it were 10 years ago, it'd be a great hire. I don't know about in 2025. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you being here.